Hi, I'm Tina Litster at Searcy Creek Boutique. Our mission is to empower you to courageously create. We created these kits for you to eliminate the guesswork and to give you the tools, the knowledge, and the courage to create your own work of art. Today I'm going to show you how to make this wreath with pine boughs and a red poinsettia pick that has one poinsettia and then other sparkly elements to it. This wreath also has iced berry picks and red eucalyptus picks with some berries on them, and these sparkly red elkhorn branches. I call them elkhorn because I think that's what they look like. The first thing that we do is to place these pine bough picks into the wreath fairly closely together. You have several of them, so we want them to be fairly close together. Alternate the ones with pine cones and the ones without pine cones, or at least the ones with large pine cones and the ones without, so that they're evenly spaced. This wreath is one that you do all the way around the wreath, so we'll cover every part of it. If your wreath happens to be not perfectly round, this is the time to compensate for its shape by putting your pine picks in a nice round shape. You can do a great deal of compensation just by how you place these. Like if you had this wreath has a little bit of a squash on that end, so I just make sure that these out here are nice and round so that it compensates for it. I'm putting the pine picks in a clockwise direction. You can do them counterclockwise, but they should all go in the same direction. You don't want them helter-skelter back and forth. Some things we do that, but not this one. And let's see, I want to move these a little closer together to make it a little fuller, because I have this extra one here. Now you notice we're not gluing anything in yet, we're still just placing them where we want them. It makes it so that if we change our mind, we can remove them and move them without too much hassle, without wrecking anything. Okay, I like that. It's nice and full and evenly spaced all the way around. So now use your glue gun and secure each one of these stems into its place. The way you do that is by retracting it just a tiny bit. Pool some glue in the place where the pick meets the wreath, and then reinsert it back in there to secure it. And that's it. The next thing we put on is this poinsettia pick. Now yours may have gotten a little bit smashed in its box, so make sure that the poinsettia bracts, they're not actually flower petals and they're part of the leaves, but we call them bracts, are fluffed out and separated. Fluff out any leaves and branches. Make sure that all of your elements are shaped nicely. And this bottom thing, I like this little twisty bottom thing to show because I think it's a nice little element. So the way we're going to do this, we're going to place it so the poinsettia is at about 9 o'clock. And we don't glue this one in, we actually use a zip tie. So in your bag that has your hanging wire is also one zip tie. So the way you use a zip tie, you want the smooth part of it to be on the top where you will actually curve the rest of the stem around, or I don't know what to call this. So the big bump is on the bottom, the smooth part is on the top. So pull your stems back and poke the end of your zip tie into the wreath around at least 2 or 3 branches. You have to poke your finger in there to get it out. You see I have it looped around couple of branches right there. Pull it out, then you can put your pick right on top of it. And then insert the end of the plastic tab into the little square, little hole, and pull it part way. You don't want to tighten it all the way until you've got your pick exactly where you want it. And I want mine to be right there. I like that, so hold it in place and then tighten your zip tie tight. And then you can just clip off the end of your zip tie. Okay, now push these other pine boughs back around it and fluff out your poinsettia so that it's where you wanted it, so that it's showing nicely. Okay, I like that right there. The next thing that we put in are these iced berry picks. You have mostly long ones, but you also have some short ones in there. So you want to put them in the same clockwise direction around your wreath. You want to poke them in so that they add a nice sparkly element in regular intervals around your wreath. You don't want them to be exactly even, but you want them to be sort of evenly spaced in regular intervals. They bend with wires in them so if they're sticking out at a funny angle, you can bend them and get them in the place that you want. Arrange other elements around them so that they show off to their best advantage. And then the little one, I want to have a little one right down here by my poinsettia. Okay, I like where those are. Now you glue them in place. You can, like you did before, just retract these a little bit and put some glue in at the stem and then push them back in where they were. Or you can pull them out completely, put some glue on the bottom of the stem like this, and then push them back in where you had them before. Just make sure that they make good contact with the wreath. Generally, the more stuff you have on your wreath, the harder it is to do it right at the base. Okay, I like that. The next thing are these red eucalyptus leaves. Again, put them in clockwise. And just fill in any gaps, and you have several of these, so you don't have to skimp on them. Just make it so that the colors make the stuff around it pop and really make a nice accent. And then this last one, again, I want it to be right here by the poinsettia, just to bring your eye. You want to draw your eye to that focal point. Okay, now we have those where we want them, and again, pull them out one by one, get glue on the stem, and poke them in. Now I have, besides my glue gun here, I have a little glue pot that I like to use. It makes it so I can do one-handed arranging pretty easy. You probably won't have one of those. It's not something that regular people have, but I really love mine, and they're not that expensive. So if you like to do this and you want to do it more often, get yourself a little glue pot. They're great. Now this one lost a leaf. You can see a stem popped off. So find the place where it popped off of and just poke it back on. The way silk flowers are created, that happens sometimes. You can glue them on if you want them to be more secure. But generally, once you have them on the wreath, it's not necessary to add more glue. And the last one, right here, poinsettia. Okay, the very last element that we add are these sparkly elkhorn branches. Again, they go clockwise all the way around, and I like to add them on top of greenery. I just feel like greenery makes the sparkles just pop out and just make it so pleasing. But not always on top of greenery. That's just my favorite place to put them. Again, make these evenly spaced, but not too rigid. You don't want a rigid looking wreath. And then I have these two left. I want to place them, one of them poking in toward the center of the wreath, and one of them on the outside, so it's like clock hands on both sides of the wreath. I like that. I think that's really nicely spaced. So, again, remove each one, get some glue around the stem, and place it back in where you had it. Okay, now this little one popped off, and I don't know where it came from actually. So I am just going to put a little glue on it. I want it right there. I'm going to put a little glue on the stem and just poke it in right there, just for some accent, because I don't want to waste a single one of them. The last thing to do is to just kind of rearrange things a little bit. You may decide that you want a longer branch out and a shorter branch in. Pull the branches out so that it's fluffed and placed nicely, and there are things in all the right places. Just so you just look at each part of the wreath and make sure that you like where everything's placed. Because the good thing about this is there's wires all over it, and the wires make it so that you can place things, you can pretty much bend and place things wherever you want them. I like that. The only thing to do now is to put a wire hanger on it. If you don't have to put a wire hanger, if you have an over-the-door hook, then you can totally use that. But if you don't have one and you want to hang it on a hook or a screw or a nail, then you need to put a hanger on it. I'm going to show you on this wreath how to put in a wire hanger. Your wire is in a baggie because I don't want it to get lost and everything, so unpack it from the baggie. And the first thing to do is to determine how you want the wreath to hang. You usually need to lift it up and actually see how it's hanging, but I've determined I want my wreath to hang from this part right here. I want this poinsettia to be just left of the 12 o'clock position, and so I put my hand right there and I just flip the wreath over so that now the part that I'm doing is right at the 6 o'clock position, right there. So I want to insert my wire. It crosses right here, so that's how I know it's at the right place. I want to bend my wire a little bit up at the ends, just because it makes it easier to pull it out of the wreath at the bottom if it's bent up a little bit. So about halfway through the wreath, right in here, I insert my wire, and you have to insert it upside down, and then you twist it up because now your wire is bent. That may have looked a little bit backward, but that's the way you do it. So you put it in, and after about an inch or so, you want your wires to come back out. Now if you have to go digging for them down inside the vine or inside the wreath, do that. But mine came up nicely this time. So then poke, you'll have to pull on the ends. Poke it down until your wire hanger is just about even with the wreath. It makes it so that the nail or the screw or whatever you're hanging it on isn't going to show. And then bend these ends up so that you have a funny looking W. Okay, so you have the two ends and then this loop in the middle there. Then one end at a time, you bend it up around the top loop. And you see how it's bent in, and then you grab the inside of it and you twist it down toward your vine so that it's twisted down in, it won't poke or jab anybody or mess up your door. Then this same thing on the other side, wrap it around behind the loop and then twist it into the twigs of the wreath. I don't like the way that did it. So twist it so that it pokes right down into the twigs of the wreath. Boy, this one's having trouble. Okay, so that's poked down in. So now you see you have a nice sturdy loop right here to hang it from, and these others secure it really well. Now this is almost impossible to do with your fingers. My fingers aren't tough enough anyway. And then you've got your loop here and you can hang your wreath from your loop. Now when you flip it back over, you may have to re-fluff some things because you had it laying on its surface. But that's how you put on a hanging wire. I hope you enjoyed making this wreath with me. Remember to like the video and subscribe to my channel below. And for more creative surprises, visit my website and my Etsy shop at the addresses shown. See you next time.